A teenager went to a Halloween party, disappeared for 5 days, then was found near the same house with a timeline that made no sense. October 23rd, 1981, Newburgh Heights, Ohio. 17-year-old Kurt Sova left home for a Halloween party. He never returned. For 5 days, his family searched ravines, schoolyards, dumpsters. They papered the neighborhood with flyers. They begged for answers. Then, on October 28, 3 young boys found him in a ravine just 500 yards from the party. He had been no longer living for no more than a day and a half, which meant he had been alive for at least 3 of the 5 days he was missing. Where was he? Who was with him? And how does a healthy 17-year-old simply cease to be, with no cause that medicine can name? 43 years later, no one can answer. This is his story.
Kurt Eugene Sova, born 1964. Raised in a quiet, blue-collar neighborhood on the outskirts of Cleveland. The youngest of 4 sons. The closest to his parents, Ken and Dorothy. According to his mother, he never had trouble with neighbors, never had trouble in school, never had trouble with authorities. He was not a drinker, he was not a troublemaker. He was, by all accounts, an ordinary teenager in an ordinary suburb. Until the night of October 23rd, 1981, when he walked to a party and walked into a mystery that has outlived everyone who loved him. October 23rd, 1981, Friday evening. Kurt left home late in the afternoon. 1 block from his house, he met Sam, a friend, who told him about a Halloween party at a duplex on Harvard Avenue in Newburgh Heights, less than 2 miles from the Sova home. Kurt decided to go. The party was hosted by a young woman named Susan. More than a dozen people attended, most of them older than Kurt, most of them strangers to him. According to later accounts, Kurt was drinking heavily, something unusual for him, given his slight build and low tolerance. The drink of choice was Everclear, a potent liquor banned in several states. Dorothy Sova, Kurt's mother, would later say she never knew him to drink, but at this party, surrounded by unfamiliar people, he did. As the evening progressed, Kurt became unwell. He stumbled. He knocked things over. Susan asked Sam to take him outside for air. At approximately 9:30 p.m., Sam led Kurt to the front fence. Because it was a chilly night, Sam went upstairs to retrieve Kurt's jacket. When he returned, Kurt was gone. Sam searched the area, assumed Kurt had walked home, and did not report his absence. The jacket remained at the duplex. Kurt did not. By Saturday morning, Ken and Dorothy Sova were worried. Kurt rarely stayed out overnight. When he did, his parents knew where he was. Dorothy began calling friends. Ken searched neighborhoods, ravines, any place he could imagine. On Sunday, they registered Kurt as missing with Cleveland police. They distributed flyers. They begged for information. Dorothy learned that Kurt had been at Susan's party. She went to the duplex. A babysitter answered, said Susan was working. Dorothy asked Susan to call. When Susan called, she initially denied having a party. She denied seeing Kurt. A pizza delivery driver contradicted her. He confirmed there had been a party. Dorothy confronted Susan again. This time, Susan admitted Kurt had been there, that he had been drinking, that he had been taken outside and disappeared. The search continued. Ken scoured the ravine behind the warehouse on Harvard Street, the same ravine where Kurt would eventually be found. He saw nothing. No bright yellow t-shirt against the terrain. No sign of his son. The area was empty. But strange events were unfolding. On Monday, 3 days after Kurt disappeared, his friend David Trisnick claimed to see Kurt walking with an unknown boy less than a mile from the Sova home. David pulled over to offer a ride. At that moment, a van approached. Kurt yelled, "Franco!"
and both boys ran to the van and entered. David, unaware Kurt was missing, did not pursue. 2 days later, Kurt was found. Also on Monday, a stranger appeared at a local record store where Kurt's missing flyer hung in the window. He told the manager she might as well take it down. They're going to find him dead in 2 days. Nobody's going to know why he died. The manager dismissed him. The next day, before the store opened, he left flowers and a note. Roses are red, the sky is blue. They found him dead, and they'll find you too. Police questioned him, described him as emotionally disturbed, released him. He was never seen again.
Wednesday, October 28th, 1981. 5 days after Kurt left home. 3 young boys discovered him in the ravine behind the warehouse on Harvard Street, 500 yards from the party. He was lying in a shallow pool of water. One tennis shoe was wedged in rocks 12 feet away. The other shoe was never found. The scene disturbed investigators. Lieutenant Robert Karras of the Newburgh Heights police believed Kurt's body had been placed there deliberately. Whoever dumped him knew the area, he said. They knew people go back there. They knew he would be found. Ken Sova was certain. He had searched that ravine the day before. Kurt had not been there. Someone had placed him there overnight. The autopsy revealed a devastating contradiction. Kurt had been no longer living for only 24 to 36 hours, which meant he had been alive for at least 3 days after leaving the party. Where had he been? Who had he been with? And how had he gone from ill at a party to missing for 3 days, to no longer living in a ravine, with no cause that medicine could identify? Former Chief Deputy Coroner, Dr. Lester Adelson, called it instantaneous physiologic death, a diagnosis by exclusion. Kurt had not been beaten. He had not been traumatized. His blood alcohol level was 0.11, not nearly high enough to end his life. He had no drugs in his system. He had no pre-existing illness. Every possible cause had been eliminated. And yet, he was no longer living. On the very morning Kurt's body was found, Dorothy received a call at 3:30 a.m. from Susan, the party host. Someone was sleeping in her basement, Susan said. Perhaps it was Kurt. Dorothy, exhausted by Susan's previous lies, did not know whether to believe her. Ken went to the duplex. He searched the basement. He found a cot that appeared to have been slept in, but no one was there. He never learned if Kurt had been the person on that cot. He only knew that someone had been there, and when he arrived, they were gone. Dorothy believed she knew what happened. Kurt had been in that basement. He had been unwell, perhaps severely so. The partygoers, panicked, had placed him in the cot. When he passed, they had moved his body to the ravine, close enough to be found, far enough to create distance from the party. Ken agreed. The timing fit. The location fit. The only thing that did not fit was the complete absence of evidence, the inability of medicine to name a cause, and the silence of everyone who had been there. The Newburgh Heights Police Department's investigation was plagued by failures that would only emerge years later. No photographs were taken of Kurt at the scene. No search was conducted of the duplex. No written statements were collected from party attendees. Cleveland police offered assistance and were rejected. Dorothy claimed Lieutenant Karras dismissed her as a mother who would not accept her son's passing. Then, the officers themselves began to fall. Over several years, multiple Newburgh Heights officers were arrested for falsifying credentials, for drug trafficking, for assaulting handcuffed prisoners. Lieutenant Karras, who had led the investigation, was convicted in 1991 of attacking prisoners and sentenced to 6 to 15 years. He had allegedly taken a prisoner to the warehouse near where Kurt was found and attempted to fight him. He denied involvement in Kurt's case.
The damage to the investigation's credibility was irreversible. The Cleveland police, the county sheriff, the prosecutor's office, and the FBI later reviewed the case. All concluded the initial investigation had been poorly conducted. But the evidence was gone. The witnesses had scattered. The leads had faded. Kurt became a cold case, one of thousands from the 1980s, before DNA databases, before digital records, before the internet could keep a case alive.
In 2019, the Newburgh Heights Police Department reopened the case, partnering with Tiffin University to re-examine evidence. In 2020, Kurt's case was featured at CrimeCon's CrowdSolve event in Chicago, where hundreds of citizen detectives reviewed thousands of pages of reports. No breakthrough emerged. The case was declared dormant, not closed, but not actively investigated. By then, Kurt's family was gone. Ken Sova passed in 2001. Dorothy passed in 2014. Two of Kurt's brothers, Keith and Kenneth, also passed. Only Kevin, the eldest brother, remains, still seeking answers he knows may never come. "I think I came to peace with it," he said in 2021, not wanting to blame somebody. No matter what, it doesn't bring Kurt back. The questions that persist: where was Kurt for 3 days? Who was Franco? Who slept in Susan's basement? Who placed Kurt in the ravine? And how does a healthy 17-year-old, with no drugs, no disease, no trauma, simply cease to be? A medical impossibility that became a family's permanent wound.